Hello again, and welcome to a financial thought leadership podcast, Banking on Experience, sponsored by CRMNEXT, the banking CRM, where we simplify work, drive growth, and deliver on experience. This podcast is meant to empower individuals working in the financial industry with stories, experiences, and knowledge straight from the source. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and stay tuned for an awesome show. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Banking on Experience. I'm your host, James Gilbert. Today we are joined by Ryan Zilker. He is the CMO at Sound Credit Union. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Thanks, James. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Now, let the secret be known, like we work with you guys a lot at Sound Credit Union, but you and I have actually never spoke too much. So this is actually exciting for me because I also get to talk to one of our customers, and this is a topic that I'm very passionate about. And I know you are too. Let's give the audience what the topic that we're specifically going to be talking about today is how to leverage omni-channel nurturing across interactions. So before we get into that, it's always a good idea for the listeners to get to know Ryan a little bit. So tell us who you look up to more than anyone in this industry.
In this industry, that is a great question. So I'm going to go back to one of my first bosses. I guess are we naming names or are we keeping anonymous here?
Yeah, name names. Let's hear it.
So he hired me in 1996 when I was still in college. His name is Jose Lara. He is the Chief Operations Officer at School's First Credit Union in Southern California. Actually, they're in all of California. They're based in Southern California. I'm still in touch with him today. I kind of think of him as a mentor, and I still today will think of things he taught me, or one of his famous mantras is "Perception is reality," and that colors my world to this day. So man, Jose is one guy I look up to.
Him and I would get along great because I that's a little bit of my mantra too. I talk about that a lot internally, and sometimes people hate it because it's like you don't realize it doesn't matter what reality is at all. Like your perception makes that, and people's perception of you and their impression of you, no matter how hard you try to change it, ultimately that's what it's going to be. And when we approach things, I think that's a really important takeaway too. I want to ask you one more question so the audience can get to know you a little bit. If you could spend your day outside of work, the perfect day, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. That's a good one. I think it would start with sleeping in. A nice cup of coffee. I really enjoy hot yoga. It's a great way to start the day. Seems kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of hippie, I think, but it's something I really enjoy doing. So probably a nice hot yoga class, some time with the dog, maybe the dog park. Maybe if it's ever sunny out here in the Pacific Northwest, walk the dog along the water. Then some good dinner with some good friends.
So Ryan, now you have to help me because, I'm not as in shape as you are, obviously. So we have to really, I have to understand what's the difference between yoga and hot yoga?
So hot yoga is done in a room that's heated to about 105 degrees.
Oh my gosh.
with a humidifier going. So you walk in and it's equivalent to like walking outside in Florida in August. I mean, it is quite warm. And the idea behind it is that the heat loosens up your joints and you can stretch a little bit deeper. And you sweat a lot. A guy that goes to the same studio as me weighs himself religiously before class and after class. And last week he said he lost 6 pounds of water in class. Yeah.
Yeah, that could potentially be dangerous for me because I sweat already. Like you don't need to put me in a sauna to make that happen. That's TMI for the listeners. Let's move on to our topic today. And when we're talking about omni-channel, Ryan, why are you so passionate about this topic?
I mean, if we go back to perceptions being reality, I'll bring it back to the beginning. Um, I really look at the member experience, the member perception, and what it's like to do business with their credit union. Is it easy? I know that members, and I may go back and forth between members and customers and consumers. It all means the same thing in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, but consumers in general, their expectations are being set by the likes of Amazon and Netflix that almost predict what a consumer wants and know across channels what the member or consumer has done with them. So to go from that experience to a credit union where they may do something on the website, maybe make a phone call, maybe have to be transferred to somebody else and have to tell their story time and time again, it is not a good experience. And I think that if we want to compete with the likes of Amazon and Google, who by the way are kind of breathing down the backs of our necks in financial services, um, we need to up our game and we need to provide a better member experience across all channels.
I'm glad you brought up that last piece because I don't know that there's a lot of people out there in this industry that realize that these big players are trying to compete with you all. So from the side, like let's give us some examples to the listeners of how you guys are doing omni-channel today. Like let's talk about your digital experience. Give some examples of real life things that you're doing today at Sound.
So you want the connected experience or the disconnected experience?
Let's talk about, if it's okay with you, let's talk about both. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody has a point in which they start and everybody has a journey along the way. So let's talk about the journey a little bit. Like you guys have had disconnected things, but you've also got really, really connected. So let's talk about both.
Yeah. So I mean, if we talk about our online digital banking experience, what a member does in that platform is visible to us through, we call it our e-branch, and those are our team members who are dedicated to serving members across the digital channels. So they have visibility to what the member's doing. They can help. It's a pretty good experience, I think. Then we look at what marketing does. So in my team, we do some outbound marketing. We use HubSpot for all of our marketing automation, right? So we do some outbound marketing. Right now, we don't have HubSpot connected to our CRM, to our eBranch, nothing. So marketing kind of exists in this own little island out here. And unless we're really diligent about telling our team members what members are doing with us and how they're interacting with us, the team has no idea. So we may have a member who has clicked on emails, filled out forms, downloaded white papers, watched videos, attended webinars. They're hot for a product, and then it's as if they were just as cold as the next person walking into a branch or calling our contact center. So there's an opportunity there to really uh, share the information. I mean, my ideal state would be, James, if you're shopping for a mortgage loan, let's say, and you've been interacting with our website quite a bit, playing with our calculators, checking out rates, monitoring rate alerts. If you walk into a branch, we should be talking to you about a mortgage. And today there's not that visibility. And
Mm,
that's where I want to get.
I agree. And by the way, this is a problem that I think exists, you know, outside of financial services, just in general. I think that this is a big problem that marketers are trying to figure out. And I think primarily marketers are trying to figure it out because we historically have owned the omni-channel experience and more of the digital side. But what do you think are one or two things, or maybe just one thing that credit unions should start doing today that they may not be doing already?
Yeah. So, I mean, I mean, I know we're here with CRMNEXT. So, I mean, I think any sort of a CRM strategy is a great place to start because that's built around visibility as to what the member or the consumer is doing with us. So if we have a system of record or a way to capture those interactions, it starts to pass the information along And then we have to train our teams to look for it and to have those conversations. If it's a team of order takers providing great member service, but not in the habit of actively engaging with the member, it becomes challenging. So, I mean, I think the most fundamental, we need a repository for the information, and upskilling our staff so they know how to interact with that information and how to use it to better serve the members.
By the way, I promise I did not ask him to do a plug at all. Matter of fact, I told him ahead of time. I said, "Hey, like normally we don't talk about us at all on this, so it was all Ryan." Just so
It was all me. Yeah, yeah.
No, but I want to double down on that for a second. Regardless of us being a vendor in that space, okay? I have taught this for my entire career. I've got a long data background, and I've gone into big organizations. I'm talking about like the biggest ones in the world, to try and fix their systematic problems with their CRM and how technology talks to it. And I'm here to tell you, out of all of the pieces in the tech stack that you have, CRM has got to be one of them. I think it is so pivotal. I think it matters too much to what you can do across functions if you do it right, that it's got to be part of your plan. And it's very interesting to me because the more people we talk to in the credit union space, the more we realize that a lot of people don't think that way. And I think one of the problems is, and we talk about this a lot, is CRM has become sort of this, it's become a pain to people. And it's got this perception that it's a lot of work to manage. You've got to have dedicated people that can manage it. And I think that perception has existed for 20 plus years. And it very rarely has made the omni-channel experience, or even the member experience for that matter, better. But I think there are solutions out there. I'm not going to talk about the ones I think, but I think there are solutions out there that actually don't do that, but that truly do really simplify the work that exists for people that are doing the work every single day. I think that's the key. I think that in order to provide a good omni-channel experience, in order to provide a good member experience, you've got to make the day in the life of the people that are doing the work at a credit union easier. I think if you do that, the rest translates in a very beautiful way.
Well said. You said a couple of things that really kind of resonated with me, James. One of them was looking across functions for the CRM, and I think that is so important because I've seen it done where it's been, that's a marketing function, or that's a sales function, or that's an operations function. It's all those and then some. And when I've seen CRM implemented in a vacuum, that's when you start to run into some of these problems that you just outlined. So I think the cross-functional approach to implementing CRM is really important. And then the other thing that you talked about was simplifying the work. I've also seen credit unions in particular fall into the trap of trying to get best in breed. And so they think I'm going to get this really cool system that can do all this really cool stuff, but it all needs to be built from scratch. And that's where they run into problems. And so we have credit union IT teams trying to build processes and workflows that somebody else has probably already done for another system. So I think it's really important to look for what plugs in easily to your system, to your systems, to your tech stack, to your MarTech stack, to achieve your goal. And it's always important, I think, to start with an end in mind. As we go back to the beginning question, and I talked about Jose's perception as reality, I have had leaders in my career who had little phrases that just stick with me in my life. And one was a leader when I was at Co-op Financial Services, and he had this methodology for project implementations where he talked about as is, where are we today, and to be, where are we going to be. And I find that as is to be analysis to be really important when you're looking at new technology. And I think that that's a piece sometimes missed. It's like, oh yeah, we need CRM because we need CRM. Well, okay, what is your future state? What are we getting towards? And that helps us. That Northern Star is really important as we start to kind of build out our implementation plan.
Yes, I completely agree with you. And by the way, like where a lot of people want to get to, right? That North Star is, having a really good line of sight into what is happening, like, and it being accurate and having reporting that you can actually see and view, and dashboards that are, dynamic and can change over time, and being able to understand the members. I think that's always the holy grail, right? But there's groundwork that has to be done to get to the holy grail. And I think you alluded to that perfectly. And it actually brings me to the next question that I had for you. This is, you kind of have defined a little bit of a journey, right? And when we think about members, they have a journey with your brand and with every product that you guys offer. So when we think about doing omni-channel communication and nurturing them, if we're going to define nurture, it's really communication across the journey that keeps them in front of you and making sure that you're developing the relationship over time. So now that we've defined that, what do you think is a good way that a credit union can start figuring out how they nurture members? Because I think for me, I'm a member of a credit union here in Utah. And one of the things that drives me mad, and I've talked about this a lot, is I get the same credit card offer and the same refinance offer in a direct mail piece every other week. Like, it's the exact same thing. Like, without fail, I get it. I see the envelope and I'm like, I mean, I appreciate you. I'm not going to name the credit union because I do love them. Like, they do a great job. But like, that's an example of how they're not nurturing me. Instead, they're doing work to just do the work. Big difference. So let's define that. What can credit unions do to make sure that they're actually nurturing members?
Yeah, so James, what you just described is what we call in marketing spray and pray. You just spray the offers out there and pray that somebody takes you up on it, right? That's kind of how marketing and credit unions has been done for years. What we're starting to do now is, it's funny, until you had put it like this, I hadn't thought of it as nurturing, but it really is. It's looking at, so it's better targeting to start, right? So trying to get the right offer to the right member at the right time. That's what we're all trying to do. So not only doing better targeting with the information that we have about our members, but learning from how they do or do not respond and adapting and being able to capture that response or lack of response and get smarter with our marketing and better with our marketing. That is the holy grail for marketers. It is challenging. It is ever moving, because we think we have to be in front of our members every other week.
Yeah.
So we're top of mind, right? So maybe, in a year when you do need a credit card or a home equity loan or something, you do think, oh yeah, that's right, my credit union has it. How do we balance that need for awareness and frequency with the wear out factor, the burnout factor? We have a credit union in our neighborhood that I don't belong to, and I get mailings from them every other week. so I understand what you're saying. So it is a challenge and a balancing act. So we do some things where our loan officers, or loan offers rather, we try to make them a lot more targeted. And like I said, based on information we have about the member, and we append that with third-party information. So we use Experian. We try to make those more targeted. If it's an upsell or a cross-sell product, we're not using AI right now, but we're using lookalike marketing. So somebody who looks to be about the same age and about the same income and about the same neighborhood might like this product. So kind of a really rudimentary Amazon. People who bought this also bought that.
But
Super. Okay.
Even for the record, though, even that is a level above, I think, what exists in a lot of situations. So
Yeah, it's challenging. It requires third-party support. We don't have the people in house to do that, so we outsource some of it, and that's tough for tight credit union budgets. Do you want to spend that money on a third party? Do you want to spend that money on spray and pray? So it's challenging. So that's what I think. I mean, what nurturing would be on the marketing side, and then I would say we'd have to layer in the digital side. So I mean, the really cool thing about digital marketing is that we get to see so much more information about who is interacting with us and how they're interacting with us and where they go and what they do. um, we don't currently ingest that and append it to our member record so we can make smarter decisions. Those are that's kind of a future state that I want to get to. um, we're not doing that. And then I think beyond that would be, how do we pass all that uh, information about how members interact with us in our marketing to our frontline team members? So when they interact with a member in person, they know who's clicking on our emails, who's sniffing around our website, who hates the direct mail that we send them. Um, that's where I think nurturing really starts to kind of pick up some steam and show some real results.
yeah, and you had kind of laid this out really well, and I like it because I've heard it a lot before, but I think that we need to call it out again. Right time, right message, and then what was the third one?
We got to get the right message to the right person at the right time.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
So one of those key pillars that I wanted to call out is time. I think a lot of times people think of this as like I gotta like time wise hit them at the right time, but I think that I'm gonna rephrase this for you. Instead of right time, right channel, and here's why. Let's say, for example, I'm in the middle of my workday, and you try to call me. Now, that is not the right time for me, right? But if I'm in the middle of my workday and you try to text me, I still might respond, right? So I think that some of it also has to do with communication preference and the channel in which members want to be communicated to. And I think you have to identify that very early on. You need to figure out like which channels do they really like to be communicated in. So I wanted to call that out. You can think about it a little bit differently. It doesn't necessarily mean like time of day or anything like that.
yeah. I think that's a really important point. One of the data elements I'm interested in us starting to collect and act upon is what channels are members responding to and reacting to. We're running a campaign. It just launched last week. Right before this call, I was looking at the analytics of it. And what's cool is I can now see how many people are responding to the email versus the direct mail.
Yeah.
And so we're at about 40% responding to the email, 60 to the direct mail. That kind of surprised me, actually. I thought we were gonna have more responses to the email. It could be that it's early on. Maybe that pendulum's gonna shift. I don't know. But so I'm tracking it, but I don't yet have the means to ingest it and make future marketing decisions based on it. And that's where I think we're trying to get to.
Really, really good point. When we had talked before about doing this podcast, you were talking about video banking, and you know, you gave an Amazon example. I'd love for you to talk about that for just a brief minute on why video banking has kind of made it to where we actually have to maybe create a wider gap than we actually planned to do during the pandemic.
Yeah. So I think that this started with a question that James, you posted me of. I'm going to paraphrase here, I think, but what is a trend in the market or in the credit union space that I disagree with?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so not only is it a trend in the credit union space, but it's something that Sound is moving forward with. So I am breaking party line right now in what I'm saying. So I'm putting that out there. If my boss is listening, I'm going to support it when it's time. But you know my thoughts on this. So and that is the concept or the idea of video banking. So specifically from home. This is something that we saw really kind of gain in popularity with the pandemic as branches were shutting down. Um, I've read and heard from different credit unions varying levels of success. Some have raved about it, others have been so-so. Um, it's sound we kind of had to back into a solution. We didn't have the technology in place to do it really slick. So we did, online appointment setting, and we would just Zoom the members. And what we found is a few people would make appointments and then they wouldn't show up. Um, I mean, we're talking like single numbers out of 140,000 members, like single digit numbers, made appointments, less than 10. Um, the the few who did actually show up for the appointments were either real estate signings or meetings with our financial advisors or investment advisors. Um, so so it's kind of challenging in my mind, this idea that video is really a good channel if we go back to that channel conversation. So I think what I had shared with James was, if y'all remember years ago, when Amazon was launching their tablet, was it the Fire tablet, I think is what it was
Fire.
called?
Mhm.
Yeah. um, they piloted a video support where the user, the new recipient of the tablet could log on and video chat with Amazon support, and Amazon could take over and co-pilot their tablet to show them how to do things. And they made a huge splash advertising this, and then it just disappeared. And from everything I can tell, it was not successful. Um, and what's cool about that, I think, is that Amazon has the deep pockets to be able to test stuff like this and to see if it works. Um, I honestly just don't see a use for it. And I know that probably you have some listeners who disagree with me and think that I'm crazy. Um, I, from everything that I can see, members can get the answers to what they want in other ways. It's like we're creating a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Between chat and phone calls and emails and FAQs, I just don't see a use case for it, except for those special circumstances of a financial advisor or a real estate agent. So
I think this again goes down to communication preference too, right? Because I mean, hit me on chat or text all day long. Hit me on video, I'm good. Hit me on a call, nope, not going to happen.
right, right.
So I do think that some of it is preference for sure on the members, but I think you bring up a good point that sometimes we want to adopt a trend because we feel like it's important and we feel like it's solving a problem. But sometimes by adopting that trend, we also are creating a bigger gap. And we're creating some of the problem of this omni-channel experience. Because remember, if you do video baking, you also have to remember that that is now part of a new channel that you've got to tie in with the rest of them. So if you don't tie it in with the rest of them, then guess what you're doing? You're creating a bigger gap that will come to bite you in the butt.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I heard a speaker. I wish I remembered her name so I could give her proper credit. She referred to it as Opti-channel rather than Omni-channel. And I
Ooh,
really like that. It's kind of optimizing the channel for the member's preference.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to use that. I've never heard that before. So there's a few more questions that I have. I know that this one's a little bit longer, and I like it because we're getting into some good stuff. From a marketing point of view, what channels do you feel like are the most underutilized with credit unions?
Mm. Um, gosh, I don't know that uh, I have seen digital used as effectively as it could be used. So I wouldn't say, I mean, it's utilized. I just don't know that it's utilized as well as it could be, because I've seen a lot of the spray and pray from direct mail applied to digital. And it really has so many more targeting options that I just have not seen credit unions really use as well as we're seeing other retailers and suppliers use. I mean, it's interesting. Like I, I get hit up for like B2B credit union vendor stuff via digital banner ads all day long. So between my cookies and my profile out there, they know who I am, and they're targeting me. You see lenders, if you visit a car manufacturer website, you can get hit up for auto loan offers. Um, I'm not seeing credit unions do that well. We're not doing it as well as I wish we could be and should be. I think that if we it, it it's tough to build that expertise internally, and it's expensive to pay for that expertise externally. So it becomes a challenge to really do it right, I think. And I'm sure there are some credit unions out there who are doing a bang up job at it. But in general, I've not seen the credit union space do it as well as I think it could be done.
I would agree with you. We did an episode, I can't remember which number it was, but we did an episode not too long ago. It was with Andy Rossmile at Faraday. And Faraday offers like a predictive analytics kind of tool on the consumer side that allows you to really understand who that member is. Like, I mean, I'm talking about like being able to tap into channels that you couldn't tap into normally, right? Understanding them from a social perspective and their social profiles. Doesn't work off of third-party cookies or anything like that. But I think that it's where you can't solve internally. And I think this has always been the Achilles heel of a credit union. I think that when you can't solve internally, you really do have to look for a solution of a provider out there that has done it for many, many people and can help you solve for it. And I think that the more times we have credit unions adopt that type of mentality, I think the better that the industry is going to be served. Because I think too often they look at it as a problem to solve, and then they're like, oh, I can figure this out and I could solve it.
Exactly. I'm going to watch YouTube and I'm going to Google it, and I'll do it myself. So I don't know Faraday, but that actually reminds me of this conversation we've been having internally about this concept of crawl, walk, run. I think credit unions have this tendency to want to run. They want to wait and buy the right product so they can run first. And we're actually going down this crawl, walk, run path of building out our personas for our members. And so we've chatted with providers that can build out these custom personas that we can build for our members. What we've decided though is that our first step, our crawl, is going to be we're just going to append an existing segmentation model to our membership and start doing some analytics there. That's a great first place to start. And when you can find the value in that, that's when it makes sense to start kind of taking the next steps further. I mean, there are so many out there. There's ESRI has Tapestry, and Experian has Prism, and there's another one out there. Or no, anyways, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I think that is a really kind of a low impact way to get started.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, this was going to be our last question, and we kind of have answered it. And that's the role that technology plays in all this. And I think that it can fast start and accelerate that crawl, walk, run. And it can also give you time, right, to spend what you need to internally to figure out some of the nuts and bolts in that crawl and that walk phase. I mean, you already know this, Ryan, but we at CRMNEXT, we approach almost everything in that same frame of mind, because we believe that you can't do everything. You can't blow out of the ocean. And from my experience, especially from the data side of things, like, you have to crawl, walk, run it. And if you don't, what you're going to be doing is creating bigger gaps along the way. And it's going to have a direct impact on the member journey. But listen, we are at time. I want to make sure that the listeners can know exactly where to find you and reach you if they want to talk about OmniChannel or anything else from a marketing perspective, or anything for that matter. Where can they find you, Ryan?
On LinkedIn. I am the only Ryan Zilker in the United States, I think. So feel free to look for me on LinkedIn. Hit me up, send me a request. I'm not very active on Twitter, so that's not a good place to find me. You can also email me at rzilker, just like my name, at soundcu.com.
The only one in the US. How did you luck out?
Isn't it crazy? Yeah. Yeah, it's a very unusual name. And yeah.
Well, I have appreciated you so much for being on the show today, Ryan. We definitely are going to have to talk about another topic in a future episode because you've been great. For those of you who have not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. And if you want to hear a topic that you haven't heard yet, reach out to me, james.gilbert@crmnext.com, or find me on LinkedIn, send me a message and say, hey, why don't you do a topic like this? Also, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, reach out to me as well. We'd love to have you. Anybody who's in the credit union space especially, please reach out. Thanks again, Ryan.
Thanks, James.